Bienvenidos, worldwide fans of the planet's hottest entertainment with an edge. You got Jaime En Fuego here, and I welcome you to my namesake program, Enfuegotainment. And I'm actually filming this in a separate spot today because I'm back in the Chiron Cavern, where my band Chiron does all of our rehearsing and stuff like that. Because I'm doing, I don't remember if it's my first ever music review, but yes, it's at least the first one in a long ass time. And that's because today, after a month delay, because of the whole pandemic craziness that we're all still fighting through, regrettably, but we're keeping it as metal as possible as we do so. I'm a little over a month late. Lamb of God are debuting their self-titled album. That's right, their first one in 5 years, and also their first one to feature Art Cruz from Winds of Plague on the drums. Now, he had actually been touring with them for the last few years after Chris Adler got in that bad motorcycle accident, and he was recommended by Chris to be his replacement, but then Chris ended up leaving the band, and there's kind of differing stories as to the extent of his departure, how amicable it possibly was, and all of that different stuff. And I guess there was some shade that was thrown recently by Mark Morton that I was reading about, where it was like, yeah, back when Chris was in this band, we always played to a click track, and the best way I can describe this new experience with a different drummer is that we don't use one anymore. So, I don't know, take that as you will, but I'm here to talk a little bit about this record, give you my thoughts. I've been listening to LOG, Lamb of God, since the early 2000s when I first discovered them. I still remember on Sounds of the Underground was the first time that I saw them. They had just put out Ashes of the Wake, but I've been listening since Ruin on Palaces Burn, As the Palaces Burn, and then going back and looking at the Burn the Priest stuff, and I mean, yeah, it's I've been following them for years at this point. I enjoyed Sacrament, not as many as a lot of people, but yeah, the Redneck single, I just wasn't as down with it. But Descending, I mean, there was a ton of great tracks on that, and that was kind of the passing of the torch right there, because Josh Wilbur, I believe his name is, so he worked with Machine on the Sacrament record, and Machine had produced the previous one, their major label debut for Epic, but he took over the reins on my personal favorite Lamb of God album, which is Wrath. I still think that's their most diverse since As the Palaces Burn, as far as each track sounding distinctively different, and also the fact that it sounds like a side A and a side B, and it's such, I mean, very tempos, just all over the place. I fucking love that record. It is so damn metal, and it was, in my estimation, where they were at their most experimental. From there, I enjoyed the other two since then, but I was very curious what was going to happen, with Art behind the drums, because Adler was a major influence on me, at least as far as some of the, little triplet-y double kick stuff, and his flourishes with his fills were what made Lamb of God just as distinctive in my estimation as Willie and Mark's guitar work, and obviously Randy being a vocalist who really developed his style and has been just solid on every release. Not quite as like shrieky and as much range to his screams and stuff as on those earlier records, especially the Burn the Priest shit, but nonetheless, I feel like he has just the utmost confidence, and there is kind of a template for Lamb of God, and there has been for the last couple of records, which is why I've been just not so much more critical of their previous two releases, but I don't know, they kind of found their groove, so to speak, and they've just kind of, you always know when it's a Lamb of God song, and I will attest to the fact that while I do enjoy this record, I gave it 3 listens already today. My physical copy is not here because, unfortunately, despite the pre-order from Amazon and the guarantee of it being here today, that wasn't the case. Yeah, they're saying Sunday the 21st, Father's Day. I'm not really expecting that to be here on a Sunday, but never know. So I'm just going to kind of briefly go track by track and give you a few thoughts, guys. So we start out with Memento Mori. And this is one that we saw a really badass music video for. We've got some spooky intro guitar work and almost like that clean, spoken-y sort of sing-speak stuff that Randy kind of messed with a little bit on the previous record, which I dug I actually liked when he tried to go clean with his vocals as opposed to just the creepy, foreboding spoken word that he had done on just about every Lamb of God record. So just seeing him stretch his skills, that's where I'm talking about the fact that he feels as comfortable in his own skin as ever, and I commend the hell out of that being the case. It's pretty damn cool. And yeah, that's a very creepy, straight up horror music video. The drums, the guitar work, everything is more or less, that mid-tempo moodiness, head nod or badassness, and it's one of my favorite tracks on the album, but not necessarily one that I felt stretched the sound or did anything too distinctively non-Lamb of God-y. Checkmate, the second track. This is one that we heard in a lyric video previously, if I recall, and it's got, Randy loves his play on words, man, and the American Scream. Yeah, props to you, sir. So that one, it's one that follows the Lamb of God sound and template, and it just sounds like a Lamb of God song as opposed to one that's really kind of pushing the limits or anything like that. And unfortunately, I feel like there's a decent amount of tracks on this album that it's like, you're going to grow to really, really love them and appreciate the slight nuances of just how the arrangements change and stuff like that. But I found myself with many of the songs on this record just kind of expecting when one change was going to go to another change. They didn't really throw me a curveball as often as they did in their earlier years, and even on Wrath, I feel like, as I said, was the last time that they did that. Gears, they just debuted a pretty dope music video for today, as a matter of fact, and this is where it starts to become much more apparent that Randy is severely attacking consumerism on this record, and more power to the dude for it with this consume culture that we exist in and fall prey to all too often. I bought on Amazon a record, but I'm always about supporting artists with the spending of my money. It's a little bit different, like you see in this music video, where it's like, I have to have that Mercedes, I have to buy this bitchin' big screen fucking TV or whatever. So yeah, the music video I highly recommend, and it does have it's got a dope solo in it from Willie, pretty rad build up, and I like the all you're dying for, always more, and so he really addresses it, or at least sets the stage for it, because he goes after it in a little more harsh fashion later in the record, which I dig. That track 4, we got Reality Bath, and this has a very moody, groovy, kind of clean introduction, and then it just kind of goes right into it. I almost wanted that bit of spookiness to last a little bit longer, but hey, Lamb of God doesn't always linger upon it. You can't have everything be goodness. The last track on As the Palaces Burned, the title is totally eluding me at this moment, but that's one of the lengthiest, spookiest intros, and also the last track on Wrath as well, man, where he's talking about mankind is a festering parasite. I fucking love that song, so very good. But this is another one that has some interesting lyrics to it, and it's got a very catchy chorus too, right? Randy, to his credit, especially as Lamb of God, have kind of commercialized their sound slightly, as far as like the verse chorusy, bridge chorusy, as less, more conventional arrangements, I guess, is, and that's not necessarily bad, but, another Massacre, another day goes by, is this the new way of normal? And that's, he's basically calling into question how just complacent we have become within this consumerism, and also the desensitization to the extent of violence and craziness that we see in society, obviously. He ends the song by saying, reject this new way of normal, and I thought that was pretty dope. So it is a very catchy chorus, and props to that. And then the next one is just one of those, New Colossal Hate. It's another one of those tracks on this album where I'm like, it's a Lamb of God song, and yet it doesn't bring anything as distinctive to the table as I would have liked. It is slick as fuck. It is very competently put together, and mad creds on that. But, beyond that, it didn't really wow me very much. I do really dig the line, though, where he talks about the melting pot is melting down, and he's obviously talking about, us here in America, and just the divisions that we are seeing arise once again, and the fact that we were always supposed to be this melting pot of ethnicities and cultures and all these different things, and that melting pot is melting down. I thought that was, can never discredit Randy for writing badass lyrics, although I do know Mark assists him with the process from time to time. So Then we come to one of the slowest and moodiest tracks on the entire record. It's called Resurrection Man, and it's got this really creeptastic rain with almost like a chime music box, like children's music box creepy kind of thing going on, and it is supremely eerie. And just like with Reality Bath, I wanted it to last longer, and yeah, it doesn't, regrettably. But it does get into it starts out with a line that I think is kind of lame, where he's like, "I was born in a cemetery," and I'm like, okay. And he's talking about, you know, walking around crushing bones and all this. Yes, I get the example you're doing, dude. I get the, you know, the euphemisms and allegories and whatnot. But it does get into some cooler stuff when he's basically going after consumerism and, you know, that whole aspect of our culture a little bit more, you know, where he talks about segregating the living dead, which is obviously what is, you know, happening once again as those divisions are rising, like I was discussing. But he's got a really dope line of "Chase that carrot stick straight to hell." I thought that was another good one, man. So once again, props to Randy or Mark, whoever put together the lyrics for this. And that's why I'm bummed that I don't have, you know, the actual booklet, so I can be like, because they do typically credit, obviously, you know, lyrics to so-and-so, whatever. And I think Descending, if I recall specifically, the track from Sacrament I mentioned earlier was one where Mark wrote the lyrics for it. And that's one of my favorite LOG songs, man. That song is damn good. Then we get to another template song, yeah, Poison Dream. This one has Jamie Josta. I've never been a big Hatebreed fan, you know, but he doesn't really sound as Hatebreedy, Jamie, on this. He definitely feels like he's fitting the song, and he has, you know, near the back end of the track, some back and forth with Randy, and they complement each other, but they do sound very similar. It's not as distinctively different as like when we had Chino on that song on the last record. So, you know, but it's another one that's, you know, it's got a dope solo though. I'll give him that. Yeah, but it's another kind of more, you know, metal by numbers, 1, 2, 3. So, hey. And then we come to the last 3 songs on this album, because it's only 10, except for the limited digipack and the Japanese edition, where those lucky fucks get an 11th song that I still haven't heard yet, called Ghost Shaped People. But yeah, at least Amazon gave me the opportunity, while I'm still waiting for this to come in the mail, to listen to it. And I'm sure it's already all over the interwebs. That tends to happen like the day, if not even before, the entire album's on YouTube. Might not be in the best quality, it may be a little too compressed or whatever. But nonetheless, this track is called Routes, and I dig it so much because it's fast as all hell. It's blistering, man, and it's almost like the last track on Sacrament in some ways, knocking down the gates of knocking on the door of hell. The title is eluding me at this particular point, but yeah, this one actually has Chuck Billy from Testament on it, and he's got some great clean stuff that he does on this, man. And this song is just pure fucking adrenaline, and I dug the hell out of it. It might be my favorite song on the album, and it does have like a cool dirgy head nod fatty outro, which is really, really rad status. So yes, give this one you know, a lot of my respect, and that is Routes, the 8th track on this album. Number 9 is called Bloodshot Eyes, and this is another one, much like you know, Memento Mori, where Randy is experimenting with those cleaner vocals again. And I dig it. I really do. I mean, he's not like, it's not like power metal type shit or anything. It's him just doing a very kind of somber-y and, you know, kind of, it's not even, it's eerie music accompanying it, but I mean, it really, really works. And yet, this is another one that's very super single worthy as far as its construction goes, and there is something nice in cases where a song does exactly what you want it to do in comparison with what you expect it to do. So just let me give some context for that. So I mean, some of the earlier tracks like Checkmate and Gears and Poison Dream that I said just followed the Lamb of God template, and I was like, okay, yep, it's a Lamb of God song, hooray. This is one where almost like terminally something, god damn it, it was on not the last record, but in any event, if I can't remember song titles, I'm just losing all my flipping cred here, man. But in any event, when there's certain times where a song does exactly what you want it to do, and you have that fulfillment factor, that's what the opening riff of this song did, where it went a little higher, and I'm like, yep, that's exactly what I wanted. And this is another fist pumpy, just arena ready, form the pit type chorus, you know, and it's Yeah, it's good, but it does unfortunately have the lyrics aren't the best, you know? It's like, I don't give a fuck what you have to say, I turned my back and walked away. You can do better than that, Randy. You really can, man. This one definitely feels very tailor-made for the much younger, just getting into metal. I'm not trying to say of the utmost sophistication, but it's just a very straightforward hook in comparison with, you know, the very intellectually challenging stuff that, you know, Randy puts forth at times on this album and definitely has in spades in, you know, various times previously. And then we come to our finale, which is called On the Hook. And as I was sitting listening to this for the second or third time and I was reading the lyrics, this one, because there was a few bits I couldn't understand super well, this one is a powerhouse. Might be my favorite song on the album. It starts out blisteringly fast with a type shit, but, you know, then this is the most epic sounding song as far as the arrangement goes because of the peaks and the valleys that this has, and also the message that it's putting forth, where, I mean, he's talking about not just prescription drug addiction, but also, you know, how basically prescription drug peeps are peddlers just like people out there slanging crack, or, you know, somebody who comes back from Afghanistan and dies from, you know, heroin addiction or something like that. And the big hook is, you know, prescription for a homicide, and it's one of the lines that he repeats the most in this. And this song, as I said, it's epic as all hell. It's supremely impressive. It's not of the length of some of those other album closers. I think the opening track is still maybe 30 seconds longer than this one, but for me, this track felt the most epic of pretty much anything on the album in a lot of ways. And as I will stress, everybody, you know, art is subjective. If you dug the hell out of this record and you think I'm totally wrong for being slightly critical about certain aspects, that is your opinion. I applaud you for it. I'm not part of the internet rage culture or anything where I'm just going to be like, take your opinion, turn it sideways, and shove it straight up your ass. No, I'm not of that nature. I'm not of that ilk. You know, I like what I like, you like what you like, and, you know, let's just respect one another's opinions. So at the end of the day, I definitely give this record 3 out of 5 Fuego Fireballs. It is a bueno record, man. So it's definitely not a Fuego or an Enfuego. That's my grading system. So, you know, it goes feo, which is 1, which is ugly. It goes 2, which is, you know, malo, which is bad. 3 is bueno. This is a solid 3 out of 5 record for me. I hold a band that I have been listening to and loving and have seen like a dozen times, like Lamb of God, to a little bit of a higher standard, just like, you know, I do with, you know, bands like In Flames or Opeth or, you know, The Haunted whenever they put out a record, or, you know, whoever it may be. There's certain Arch Enemy, you know, there's certain bands that I got into when I was first starting to play music that I still love and listen to and purchase every single record, support them as much as possible, buy the tickets, buy the merch, all that stuff. And yeah, I guess I'm a little bit more critical of their sound since they have such extensive catalogs at this particular point. Footnote, interesting bit of information as I round this out. Chris Adler put out a record today. Yeah, it's just a little 5-song EP, but it's just very ironic and interesting and obviously deliberate that he put something out here on the same day that his former bandmates were releasing their newest record, First Without Him. And it's called Firstborne, and it's all one word, and it's Firstborne spelled with an E at the end. And yeah, man, it's I listened to it. I purchased the EP, which is actually good because they're, at least today, for the Juneteenth, donating all proceeds from the Bandcamp sales of this record, which is where you can purchase it, is on Bandcamp, to the NAACP legal defense team, I believe it is, or something of that nature. So yes, a very rad status cause. And you know, the lineup is interesting. So you've obviously got Chris on the drums, and you also have James Lamenzo, I believe his name is. He's former Black Label Society with Zach and Megadeth. And then you've got this kid named Miron, I believe, and he's this, like, you know, super shreddy but like video gamey, like pop, like fast as hell type shit. He's out of LA. And then the vocalist, though, is the most interesting thing for me. He's a dude from India who fronts kind of a power metal-y band out there, and his name is Girish Pradhan, and his band is Girish and the Chronicles. And these guys, they basically sound like somewhere between modern power metal that we get from the likes of Primal Fear and bands like that, which I really dig, but definitely mixed in with some butt rock aesthetic. I mean, there are times where Giddish's voice veers into, you know, of 80s ilk, you know, and that's bands like Steel Panther parody. But I mean, the songs are fun. Chris doesn't really get too flashy, you know. He's just, it sounds like he's having fun, you know, and there are flourishes of his brilliance, which makes you really wonder if it was the rigors of a touring schedule, or if it was personal stuff, or, you know, what the extent of the departure really entailed. Was his playing ability really that drastically debilitated from the injury? There's a lot of speculation within the metal community, guys, but yeah, it's just tough to know for sure. But yeah, the 5 tracks are fun, man. They are very kind of that throwbacky, 4 to the floor. There's little bits here and there, you know, with you know, some of the double bass and some of the little group breakdowns that you're like, okay, there's a little bit of a Lamb of God sound in here, but don't go into this expecting anything that sounds like Lamb of God, except for maybe a bleep and a bloop here and there. But otherwise, if you're down with bands like Primal Fear and you like that and those shreddy, high-pitched, you know, annihilation! Maybe I'm going a little too Primal Fear with that, but a little bit deeper register. But yeah, I dug this album, and yeah, the anthem was great. Primordial, Roll the Dice, Hunter Hunted. I don't know. This is pretty badass. So if you want to support Chris, definitely search Firstborne with an E, all one word, and definitely support Lamb of God. Support artists, support creators, support musicians. Very many people do not buy records anymore. You know, there are badass vinyl exclusives at some independent retailers. If you have like a record store, you know, that is independently owned and operated in your area of the world, definitely go and show some support. And yeah, 3 out of 5, guys. A very solid release from Lamb of God, and really hardcore fans like myself, you will definitely find some enjoyment in this, even if it's not like an utter revelation. So I've been Jaime En Fuego. You can find moi on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube, where I primarily review television, sometimes comic books, you know, films, obviously. So that sort of entertainment is my specialty if you're just stumbling upon this. And yeah, it's nice to be talking about music again for the first time in a while, because I used to do it with heavy metal television, and you know, that was how I kind of got back into this sort of on-camera journalistic work, which is always dope. And if you like spooktacular shit, if you like scarific stuff, you need to go to youtube.com/The Horror Show channel. That's where we review all kinds of horror films, television. We do video game Let's Plays, unboxings. That's my bigger channel. That's where we've got like over 33K. Here I only have 1,000 because this is my little side channel. So please like, share, subscribe, show some support. It is badass of you if you do. So I guess that's going to be the end of the proceedings, peeps. Rock the fuck on. Gracias. And until the Reel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, cinemigos, constant readers, viewers, headbangers alike, say thank you. And arigato, danka, merci. And yes, everybody, until next time, listen to more music, motherfuckers.